Absolute Duo is an anime adaptation of a light novel, and it's probably one of the worst anime I've seen from this year thus far, with its boring concept and really dull, stupid characters. This anime is like a collection of how not to do anime, since this show has more cliches than any other anime I've ever seen, even on par with stuff like Fairy Tail and Naruto. The anime is listed as all these different genres, but kind of lacks any kind of these genres in the anime itself. There is so little romance progression, it's hard to even call it romance. Barely anything supernatural. There is some ecchi, but not enough to warrant a genre tag, and the action is so bad and boring. It's a giant clusterfuck as Absolute Duo doesn't know who it's trying to appeal to. Anyway, let's just get into it then. The story centers around our main protagonist, Toro, who is voiced by the same guy who voices Kirito from Sword Art Online. But both characters have their own harems, are badly written, and have black hair. Wait, is this guy the harem guy? You know, whenever an anime studio makes a harem, this is the guy everyone wants. Whatever. Anyway, our main character here attends a high school. Well, where else would he go? A school that is made for students who have the ability known as Blaze, which is the soul's physical manifestation, usually in the form of a weapon, much like Absoloute in that regard. The blaze in itself is such an unoriginal concept that every time they use their blazes, in every action scene, I was borderline near sleep, since these weapons and the way they were used are just so cliche. We were never told any more information on the origin of the blaze, or the lore of how these things work either. Also, despite what I said a few seconds ago, about how everyone's blaze is a weapon, be it either a sword or a gun, our main character has a shield, because he wants to protect his friends, or some stupid cliche bullshit like that. This is so overused in these type of anime that I lose immersion straight away whenever a main character has some kind of unique special ability. Well, aren't you a hypocrite? Look at your anime list. Some of your favorite shows have characters with special unique abilities. And you'd be right, anonymous YouTube comment, but in these shows that I like, there is often much more depth about the character to make them more interesting. Where in Absolute Duo, Toro is one of the most boring characters I have ever had the displeasure of watching. Okay, here, let me run down a few stereotypes of this character. 1. He has a dark past where someone had died, which is barely even explained to us and could simply infer everything from the opening. 2. Is partnered up with some kind of girl, in this case a lolly girl, who lives in the same room as him, as he gets flustered when she walks around half naked. Number 3. The Kono Hentai slap. And number 4. The generic harem of girls that surround this guy. Aside from that, each student has to work in pairs, which admittedly does set up the romance subplot between Toro and Julie to develop, but nothing really happens at all really. As for the story as a whole, honestly that's kind of it. They have a few battles with other students, as well as this bunny girl, whose breast looks like they're going to fall out at any given time, and fight organizations or whatever, I don't really care. Now on paper, this doesn't sound too bad, but we trudge along this anime with so little energy that it's hard not to get bored. The story also features some ass pulls and conveniences, as well as some crappy bullshit speeches, which we have unfortunately have to grow accustomed to in these types of shows. The anime is full of predictable storylines that I could never buy into, because the anime gives me no reason to care at all about what's going on, since the show does such a poor job in conveying a sense of realism, or the fact that you're actually there and immersed in this world, with its poor design and general look. The characters, which play a large contributing factor to any anime, are barely developed throughout the entirety of the show, and normally don't do anything to push the story forward or help said story progression. Everyone's motivations are painted for us, and these things are usually things such as I wish to protect, or I wish to become stronger, or I wish to fuck everyone in my harem. And these types of narrow motivations are the type I am completely fine with. These usually allow the story to progress more in other anime, but here nobody really does anything to reach these goals, aside from, you know, maybe big boob lady over here, who does a bit of training, but that's it I guess. Julie, Toro's partner, who is just kind of there and does nothing to really contribute to the plot at all. She's mainly there just for fan service and the shoehorned in, "You're a pervert" misconception from the people around the duo. Although, honestly, and I kind of hate to admit it, we do have some jokes from her in which I did try to smile, so I'll praise the show in that aspect. We do learn something about her past, but it's so small and unnoticeable and cliche There's nothing really worth talking about. We then have bitch blonde girl. Yeah, guess what? She's a bitch. Then we have not as bitch booby girl. Then we have biggest boob girl Miyuki, who is the biggest idiot of the entire cast. And then we have these two guys. I didn't really bother to learn their names since they're so unimportant to the plot. The only character I kind of liked was the bunny teacher. And no, don't roll your eyes at me. It wasn't just because she ran around in a skimpy bunny outfit and molested her students in the bath. Oh no, wait. That's exactly why I like her. Well, to be fair, when biggest boob lady Miyuki began to accumulate feelings for Toro, for no reason by the way, since Toro has done nothing to warrant this love. Wait, is it because he has a big shield? Do chicks love big shields? Is that a euphemism for something? Anyway, she actually does confess to him, which I thought was pretty cool, since these shows typically end without any kind of character knowing how the other one feels. I'm looking at you, Nisekoi, but this guy turns her down like a goddamn arsehole with an explanation. All of these characters are incredibly stupid, and point out the most obvious things for the audience as if we're idiots and can't figure out anything for ourselves. There are some fan service scenes just for the sake of having fan service scenes, such as episode 8, being an entire beach episode, and a really dull one at that. Apparently, Julie and bitch blonde girl's excuse for sleeping naked next to Toro is because they were both cold. So they removed their clothing, which by the way was keeping them warm, and rolled up next to him. Honestly, don't these girls have any shame? Who would do this? Hey, where did Miyuki go? Maybe she got lost. Or perhaps she was hurt or kidnapped by the enemy you just fought, you idiots. This anime has some of the most boring fights I have ever seen in an anime. Okay, perhaps not the most boring, since we do have Mars of Destruction, but you know, it's kinda bad. There is no flow whatsoever, and the fights feel still and disconnected from the world around them. There is no cohesion or visual flow, and no thought went into creating these scenes. The fights always consist of low motion, and simply one character running and attacking another, rinsing and repeating the same fight style. While there is some variation with Julie, a lot of her fights consist of stupid power. Also, CG is used as well in some scenes, which completely breaks immersion for me, and also looks like total crap, since it does not blend well with the 2D animation and feels disconnected somehow. The shot composition looks like crap, and I didn't like the character designs, aside from Julie's and maybe the bunny girl over here. The one good thing about the fights is at least they have blood, which is something at least, I guess. Fight scenes and how they look are completely subjective, so honestly, if you enjoyed them, that's all up to you. Animation at times should look decent, but sometimes the art should look downright terrible, with faces at some angles looking downright awful. The soundtrack, well, nothing special, gets the job done, and the opening is just killer and so catchy. Tracks such as Deep Red Heart are pretty well made and catchy to boot. It's just as a whole, the entire soundtrack doesn't really stick out because of the other lackluster elements as a whole, which brings down the entire thing. While it is understandable that the budget may have been tight and characters couldn't be moving all the time, in this case, the animation is so lazily done and doesn't stand out at all, leads me to believe no one really cared about this project and just wanted to promote the original source material, without adding anything else whatsoever. This leads to scenes that feel like they're going on forever, and I completely become bored and just want to quit. Honestly, I can't really recommend Absolute Duo at all really. There are so many better anime out there that actually deserve recognition. In a couple of years, nobody will remember Absolute Duo. And that's the way it should be. Hi, my name is LIQ Films, and thank you for watching this review of my channel. If you like my content, then please check out my other work, which you may also like as well. I apologise here and foremost for the shitty camera mic and the not camera mic, sorry, the shitty mic. I'm in the process of transferring to a new one very soon, so that should be all willy-nilly and fantastic or whatever. So thank you because of that. And I really don't much to say here, so see you next time, I guess.